Welcome, welcome. I'm just getting set up and I want to go through a few tips and tricks on setting up your canvas. Here is my canvas, and as you can see, the corners are not perfect. They've become a little bit stretched. So what can you do? Well, the first thing that you can do, the first tip, is to spray your canvas with water. Now, this one actually has a very nice frame on the back side. You need to get up underneath that frame, get it just with water. It's all it takes. And we are going to smooth away those little stretch marks because that's what they are. The canvas has got up against something. When you're storing them, if you're not really careful, it's really easy to get your canvas a little bit stretched. And some canvases, they come that way. I'm also going to take a little wooden stick and go around the edges, making sure that my water can get under there and that my canvas is perfectly flat. Then you're just going to let it dry. Another thing you can do is add something to the back of your canvas. This will keep your paint from pooling. So what I'm going to do is just take a little piece of foam board, but you can use cardboard as well. And I'm just going to fit it in that back piece. Just that simple. And now you will have a flat surface on the front. So you'll have no dipping around the frame. Then I'm going to just quickly tape it. That's kind of a tip number 3. If you want a clean back, then you'll need to tape off the back so you don't have any paint splatters. Pretty simple to do with some painter's tape, and we're good to go and begin our pour. An optional but often useful step is to paint your background. I have ultramarine blue here, and I'm going to paint my entire canvas. You can just paint the sides of the canvas if you want to, but I'm painting the whole thing. That way you don't have any white spots on the canvas that show through your painting. I'm also going to thin down my paint. Since I am doing a Dutch pour, I need thinner paint so that I can blow the paint across the canvas. So make sure that your paint is thin enough for this. This is usually 3 parts Floetrol and water to 1 part paint. This will need to have a little bit more water added to it. Now there are several ways that you can spread this. You can spin it, you can blow it, and you can use something like a palette knife or an icing spreader. This one looks like a cake icing spreader, but it is actually a type of palette knife. We're just going to go ahead and spread this and try to make it as even as possible. We shouldn't have any dipping points because we've prepared the back, and we should be good to go. Make sure you do the sides. That's always a good tip. And when you're done, make sure that there's any bubbles that you use your torch or your heat gun to get rid of any of the bubbles in the paint, especially if it's freshly mixed. If you don't want bubbles, mix it the day before. Now here's my first paint. This is just a gold color, and I'm just checking to make sure I think it's thin enough and it's not, I'll add water to it. But let's go ahead. I'm going to be using some complementary colors. I have both purple and blue in this paint, and I'm going to be using oranges and yellows with splashes of other colors like greens and blue. The one thing I have to worry about with this, because I'm using these kinds of colors, is it getting muddy when I go to blow it. So hopefully it won't get muddy, but you know what? People will say, well, think about color theory. And I'm like, I like to take my chances because I'm going to be adding something to this Dutch pour. I'm going to be adding something a lot of people don't think to use in a Dutch pour. And I will show you that in just a minute. And it's going to hopefully make my colors a little bit brighter and poppier without becoming muddy like it can become when you use certain colors. Now, this is actually an antique color gold that I have here. I had some paints left over. I have yellow ochre here, which is the main paint that you see there, with my just plain old orange. And this is just a Prussian blue in the small bottle. This one's mixed a little bit thicker here, but I think it'll make a nice shadow contrast. Now this is what I want to use here. These are my acrylic inks. If you've never seen these are Sennelier abstract acrylic inks. I love these. These are French ones, and they really work. But you also can use Daler & Rowney makes some. Liquitex also makes some, but my favorite are the Sennelier ones, even though I will be using some Daler & Rowney today. So these will actually move across your paint a lot faster than your paints will, unless you use a lot of water in your paint. They just act a little bit different because of the way they move, but they're really fun to use. So if you've never tried to use acrylic inks in your acrylic painting, especially in your Dutch pours, give it a try. We're going to see how this one turns out today. This one is a nice bright cadmium yellow. I also have cadmium orange, lime green, and turquoise in my 2 different brands of Daler & Rowney and Sennelier. And let's add a little bit. That's what I'm going to do right here, is add a little bit of my lime green. These are sort of fluorescent colors, so hopefully they will really pop back behind the paint. But I do think it's important to use the regular paint. With it, you absolutely can mix acrylic paints and acrylic inks. Okay, so a couple more dots here and there, different places, and then I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to grab my hair dryer. This is a little tiny hair dryer, and I like to use it on the high setting, pressing the cold button for this. Here we go. And there's a little bit, I'm scared of that mud. Is there going to be mud, or is that just the dark blue? We will see how this comes out. And this is what the low would be. As you can see, if you put it on low, it doesn't go anywhere. You really have to have it on its high setting to get the paint to move. See, very low, nothing. It doesn't work, even though it feels safe. You really need to have lots of air. So that's low, it doesn't move. So if you're afraid, start on low. If it doesn't work, then move on up to your higher settings. If your paint doesn't move at all, then you're probably going to want your paint to be a lot thinner, and you may have to start over. I'm just blowing it. This is a fairly small canvas, and I'm really going for what kind of effect that you get with your acrylic inks. Okay, I think I got a little bit carried away in the middle. I'll go back and I'm going to fix that, and I'll show you how to fix something or add to it. Don't feel like you're just stuck with it. You can do what you want. It's your painting. But yeah, I really like to play with the hairdryer. I'm not going to lie, it's fun. I just love to see the paint move. So I'm going to add a little bit of paint back in the middle right here. This is my yellow ochre, and then I'm going to take some of my my inks. I think that I can see yellow ochre everywhere but in the middle, so I want to go ahead and add that. I also feel like I need a little bit of orange there, my cadmium orange acrylic ink. And I think I'm also going to put a little bit of my blue because I like the shadow. I can really start seeing the dark blue back behind. I just like how it kind of lets the other colors pop because my background color isn't super dark, but it will dry dark. I guarantee that. This always dries dark. So let's grab the hair dryer and let's move these inks, my yellow and my turquoise. I just like put it all out there and see what happens. Okay, I'm going to start out slowly, I think, or not. Okay, I'm just going to have to go full throttle on this one. I need to not be afraid of it. It's just I'm losing some of my negative space, and I don't like that, but I want the color. I want the color pop there, and I'm not sure how this is going to work, but I like that. I like that there's just way more color. There's something to focus on a little bit more than there was, and the color's a little bit more even. I think at this point it's just learning when to quit. Since I've lost some of my negative space up here, I think I am just going to quit with this, and I'm going to show you what I have. I'm just going to give it a quick torch, make sure there's no bubbles, and I will take you down close underneath the light so you can actually see what I'm seeing. And here it is. You can see some cells and lacing, and you can see where the inks are, the really bright orange, the fluorescent yellows, and the fluorescent greens, just a little bit of that green, and those little pops of turquoise. And you see that kind of like that ghost-like turquoise. Those are all part of your acrylic ink. So that's something a little extra that it gives the painting. And I really do like the dark blue. I think it gives a really cool shadow effect. So you're going to have to see how this dries, and I will show you the dry result. And here it is. Here is the dry result. And while the technique may be lacking, I really think it turned out great. I love how the acrylic inks really, they just bring that pop of color, that little bit of electricity, that little bit of phantom blue that you see in there is awesome. I've turned this every which way looking at it. The lights really are not doing this justice, but I'm just really impressed with the acrylic inks. Let me know what you think in the comments below. Will you use acrylic inks in your next Dutch pour? Thanks for watching. Until next time, bye now.